visual arts, and spoken word. These are our stars and our special guest here tonight. We ask that you take a seat, and I have a couple of questions, and I guess it's open to anyone to answer, and then we'll allow you. I'm going to get out the way. I'm going to get out of the way, but because of the history of BAG, and because so many of us have encountered folk who aren't true artists, my question, the first question, and those of you who have questions of your own, be prepared to come to this center microphone. But the term artist is being used too freely by people who never toured, exhibited any art, or never ever had a reading. What are your thoughts on that? Are we sort of assigning that term artist to wannabes or people who aren't quite ready for the task? Anybody care to respond?
The question was whether or not the term artist has been overused. Well, yes and no when it's applied appropriately. I think the confusion is, personally, is that there are levels of making, and if the term artist levels it out, the public may be confused at the depth of the different makers. For instance, there's popular poetry, and it does a certain kind of work. And then there's the poetry that these people bring, and it's doing another kind of work. If the public does not understand that distinction, they will assume that the word artist makes them equal in the profundity of the work, and that is not correct. So that the public and those who care about these kinds of things you have to have discernment. If makers who are serious enough not to pander to you, that is, talk down to you, then you must have the respect to pay attention and sort out that which is important to your spiritual being. There are different levels, and you have to work at that as an audience so that when you give the term to artists and you use it, you grasp what you mean. You grasp what you mean. That's probably enough said, too.
I think the same thing is true in poetry as in music and the visual arts. I mean, a lot of people don't really understand that when you talk about poetry or a poet or an advanced poet, you're talking about a sense of craft. You're talking about craft. You're talking about the ability to be able to manipulate certain things, language, metaphor, forms, music, rhythm, rhyme, that ability. And as Oliver just said, you're not trying to pander to anybody, but I believe, like he does, that people, audiences, people who are intelligent can kind of come up to whatever. You know, they came up to Monk. They came Bird and Miles and Dizzy. They came up to that level. And the greatest rappers, they come up to them. You come up to that level. You come up to the level of the great pop music or whatever it is, and painters. You know, you have to be able to bring yourself up. And that's what an artist does. You know, you put it out there and you lay it out there, and that's what it's about. It's about raising consciousness. Because a lot of people don't have no consciousness today. You know, whether they're black, white, or whatever, crippled or crazy. You know, they want you to give them something that is very easy sometimes to understand. So, you know, I agree with that, because it's not about making you comfortable. It's not about making you comfortable as an audience. It's about making you uncomfortable sometimes. You know, it's about that. It's about making people grow. It's about making people grow and understand stuff. You know, so I just wanted to say that in relationship to poetry. because I studied the craft. You study all these people, all these great writers in the world. You study all these great poets. It's like, and that's what it's about. It's the same thing with music. Same thing with music, but I'll let a musician talk about that, or Eugene might want to expand on Shirley.
Just wanted to say that we have a writers club that meets the first and third Tuesday of the month, September through May, right downtown in East St. Louis. It's like the first exit. If anybody wants to come over, almost the first building you see, 4th Street, and then the East St. Louis Higher Education Center, 6 o'clock. But the motto of our club is offering aid and comfort, dash, and occasional discomfort to writers. So it's a critical forum or fulcrum where we train writers, we get additional training, and we create forms that are consistent with the culture. Mostly African-derived culture is represented there, and the people who come, but not all of the people. No, let's take that back. There is no one in the world who does not have an African background. So take that back. So we're fine. But outside in the foyer earlier, several brothers and I were talking, and one of them said, our generation was hit so often with the mores, you got to be twice as good, till we got overqualified. And the brother was talking about how we went from, in his words, we went from John Coltrane to Snoop Dogg. So we missed some beats in there. That's what he was saying. We missed some steps. And he said, we got overqualified. I remember hearing it in my house in some way almost every day, that you got to be twice as good as a white person to make it. And I think that qualification, that attention to standards, whether they were, derived from our own, from the black culture, or from European culture, that, Greco-Roman, Hebraic, Christian culture. Later we added the system, the African, Asian, the Hindu, Latino, island, culture. That's something we came up with in our talk. And, another continuum, as opposed to that main one that we were all given, initially, the Greco-Roman, Hebraic, Christian one. So I'm thinking that the idea of a standard is just very, very important. And the best of our artists, no matter, where they were coming from, what genre, what particular field of art, mastered the best that was out there. Self-taught or formally taught, or both. So there's still no easy way. And I want to go back and agree again with Oliver, as Quincy did, that we have to tap into the spiritual intensity, the spiritual aspect of it. If it resonates with you, not that it feels good, is good to you, but can you take something from it? Can you carry something into your dream? Can you carry something to the workbench? Can you carry something into the classroom? Can you carry something to their workshop? Can you carry something to the prison? As, where I go sometimes, where Quincy goes sometimes. So those are some thoughts I have about the artists. The words that are associated with art and artists include maker, to build, creator, shaper, fashioner. And so, one word for poet is a maker. And many of the languages of the third world, there's no word for poet, but we've come to a definition of poetry that says, African definition that says it's the most robust use of language. You know, the heights of experience. And you get that in the West Indies. People see it in the heights. Heights. You know, what up? What's going on? Heights. That's what we're trying to achieve, a height, I think.
Anyone in the audience have a question? Oh, please take that center mic. Come to that and ask your question.
This question is directed at Quincy. Much has been written about Miles and so forth, but in particular, I know that you've had a lot of interaction with him or had much interaction with him. Tell me one intriguing thing about his relationship with Jimmy Baldwin.
Well, first of all, Jimmy Baldwin and Miles Davis were very, very close. And I think because they came along at a time, and I'm going to use this I try to use it in a very correct way, because both of them were small, and they were both dark-skinned people, dark-skinned black men. And they both were geniuses at what they did. And in the United States, sometimes, and a lot of the time, there's no place for African-American geniuses. You know, in the pantheon of the structure that we have here. There is no place for that, either whether you're a painter, or whether you're a musician, or whether you're a writer. There's no place. So they had that in common. Plus, they had in common a great friendship because they liked, and this don't sound strange, they really loved each other, and they liked to laugh. They liked good food. They liked great art. They liked great music. You know, they did, you know. I mean, so they had all of that in common, and they had this friendship that went back a long way. I'll tell you this story. When Miles Davis would go to France to play, and Miles Davis was, whatever you think about Miles Davis, he was a very particular, specific kind of person about certain things. You know, every time he would go to France on a tour, and he would always go every year for long tours, he would take out 5 days and go to James Baldwin's house in St. Paul de Vence. And he would spend 5 days at Jimmy Baldwin's house every year. And they would eat, talk. Nobody knew what they did because they were the only ones there. But that's what they would do. That's what they would do. And I want to say this. One of the things that I did, because there was nobody knew it, in the movie that I just wrote, the screenplay, I create a scene that I never saw. And I'm going to tell you all, I've never said this before. I create a scene where Miles Davis comes to France during the last month of Jimmy Baldwin's life. He wasn't there. And they spend that time together, you know, talking. But you see it. You, the audience, see it. Because I knew that happened because Jimmy used to tell me, and Miles told me. So I knew it was true. See? So I created it in homage to Jimmy Baldwin and to that friendship. You know what I mean? Because it was a great friendship, and it was an important friendship. And I think it's important. This movie about Miles Davis and myself is based on friendship. And you don't see on the big screen friendships between black men. You just don't see it. You have not, you tell me where you've seen it. So that's what I'm trying to create in this movie. One thing, the tensions that go with it, it's a hard-earned friendship. So that's what I would say about it. And they were both geniuses. They both played music with what they did. Jimmy Baldwin's instrument was his sentence, the language that he used, and Miles's was his trumpet, you know, and they understood that.
Next question, sir. Did you have?
Stand, yes, you can stand to the mic.